All right, we live. Let's dance.
Welcome to our new podcast that Derek and I are hosting. I'm Taiha. This is Derek, and we are hosting a podcast called The Winner's Circle, where we want to bring you guys people who are just going for their win. They are following their passion and following their mission and their vision. And, lots of people in the world aren't doing that and don't have the courage or balls to follow their calling. So we wanted to bring you guys people who have done this, who are doing the work every single day to make sure that they are living in alignment with who they know themselves to be and living in alignment with their full potential. And Derek, want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know Christian from when he used to work at the On It Gym and ran the On It Academy durability certs. I'm repping my On It Academy shirt right there in honor of you, Christian. And as a yoga teacher and a movement specialist myself, my work with Christian has really expanded my worldview. So thank you so much for that, Christian. And we're going to get into more about who you are as we progress throughout this path we're about to go on. And so let's just get right into it. Christian, tell us about your mission. It's so important that we have a mission. We'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, I think, I believe that my mission has continued to evolve and will continue to evolve. I think that's something that I am constantly coming back to and not getting cemented into what my passion or what my purpose or what my mission is going to be on any given day. But I would say today is really just helping people, really, bringing awareness and helping empower people to really take back control of their physical and their mental body, right? And if we had to make that even more simple, I think it's just really helping people feel better on a daily basis, right? Whether that be physically feeling better or just mentally being in a better place than they were the day before. That is ultimately what I'm, achieving to help people around me and the community around me to ultimately get to.
Right on. That's beautiful. So what does your win look like for you today? And Ty, do you want to maybe tell him what we mean by his win?
Yeah, so basically, when you're going for your win, you are answering the call of the universe or whatever you believe in, following that instinct inside of you for what you are put on this earth to be doing. And so, yeah, just tell us a little bit about what that would look like for you today. What does your day look like, and what do you enjoy doing, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. So, I think going for my win, I don't really want to get into too much of my past because I know that we're going to kind of dive down that at another point during this conversation. But sports and athletics has always been a big piece of who I am. And it's, sports and working with athletes specifically is something that I really feel like on a daily basis that I'm called for as well, right? We talked about, or I spoke to, helping people feel better, both mentally and physically, and as an athlete growing up, I don't feel like I had anybody in my corner that was able to really kind of help me understand or give me a different perspective of what fitness, right? Or what movement or what health and wellness really means, right? And so, going for my win, at least from a personal standpoint, it's really trying to just achieve this balance between, okay, I obviously, I have career ambitions, I have goals, I am the co-owner and co-founder of the Durable Athlete with myself and my significant other, Natalie Higby. And obviously we want to take that brand and we want, as many people to get, or as many eyes to get on our brand and really embody what we're trying to help preach and get people to, again, just really live out in terms of just a healthier lifestyle. But on a daily basis, it's really just trying to find, again, this balance between, wanting a business to grow, wanting to be in the best physical shape that I can be, wanting to be in a place of gratitude and always, never forgetting the fact that regardless of that, I'm trying to get somewhere else within my journey, that I'm very, very grateful for everything that I've been able to accomplish and everyone who's been able to really kind of feed into my bucket to this day. So yeah, I guess, to try and answer your question again, what does going for my win look like? It's one, having my morning, right? I need my morning time to really feed me. My morning time is very, very important. My morning time is really the time where I make sure that my bucket is filled, so that as I go throughout my day serving my clients, whether it be, in a fitness session, or, whether it be just for, getting on a FaceTime or getting on a call with, any one of my athletes who's maybe going through something, mentally, or going through something challenging. Again, it's just a time for me making sure I have my morning to really fill myself up. And then throughout my day, again, it's just how much value can I continue to provide for the community that I'm serving, right? And obviously right now we're in a little bit of this social distancing time, right? So things are a little different from a fitness perspective, right? The way that we engage in our sessions and the way that we're helping people develop physically is now starting to kind of change, right? We don't necessarily have that in-person contact anymore. And so, nowadays, if anything, I think it really allows the space, and it allows the time for, the male athletes that I get to serve to maybe start taking a little bit more time and attention towards, the mental side of performance, right? Maybe, taking a little bit more time to become a little bit more vulnerable, right, around, their daily actions or their relationships, or maybe something that they've been kind of, hiding or kind of putting down into the basement for a while now. And so, yeah, hopefully I didn't go off on too much of a tangent there, but yeah, that's how I kind of see it right now.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that could take us into a lot of directions. But let's
Wait, I want to say
Yeah.
something real quick. I just wanted to address, like, when you said how when you were younger you didn't really have that type of, you're basically trying to be the person that you didn't have when you were younger, and I resonate with that so much, because as a wrestler, like, and so many other sports, you're just taught to, like, go, run your body into the ground, cut weight, which is super bad for you, like bad for your health. And I just thought, like, that was how I lived my life for so long. Like, it's taken me a while to get out of that mindset. And now that I'm finally learning how much more important it is to do yoga and do all these things that are more for my mind than my actual, like, burning calories or building muscle, whatever it is, it's so much more important. And if you don't have that part, your body's not going to last very long, which I've learned through all my injuries and everything. So I really, really love that when you said that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That was great. That was great. So what we're going to do next is I want you to, we heard a bit of what your win looks like. I want to celebrate you a bit, Cristian. There's been some huge wins. I want you to talk about NBA Junior. I want you to talk about your Lululemon ambassadorship. I want you to talk about the durable athlete. Let's celebrate your wins. What are some of the wins you've experienced on the path thus far? Some stuff that you're proud about. Let's hear about those.
Man, I'm gonna try not to get emotional right now. I don't know why I'm starting to get a little emotional about it, but I sometimes don't like celebrate myself enough and celebrate the wins, right? And I think one of the biggest things, honestly, my biggest win that I reflect on a lot is my family, understanding where my family has kind of come from. So I'm Hispanic. Both my parents were born. Sorry, my mother was born in Mexico, but both sets of my grandparents were born in Mexico. And growing up, both of my mom and my dad's family really grew up with like hard labor, right? Which there's obviously nothing wrong with, but they grew up, working in fields. And so to them, the only way to make ends meet was to, put more work into the field, right? To put 20 hours of hard work, picking strawberries, picking lettuce. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has their own role within this world. But man, it just like amazes me. And my grandparents, who barely know any English at all, every time I get to see them, are always kind of just telling me like, man, like, who would have thought, like, where we've come from? Damn, this is getting me hard right here. I'm
Thank
sorry,
you,
guys.
brother.
Like,
No,
where
this
we've
is
come
nothing
from.
to worry for.
Yeah, thank you.
Vulnerable. That's
Yeah,
showing
that's
everyone, like, heroes like
Yeah.
you. You're a huge hero. You're a hero to me, hero to, I know, so many others. Show them that heroes could be vulnerable, and that is a strength.
100%. You're right, Derek. Thank you for that, bro. Yeah, I think again, just really realizing that like where we've come from, just so grateful that my parents sacrificed so much so that I could be doing something that I'm just passionate about. Right. And I think that sometimes gets lost, especially maybe from our parents' generation of they had to do something, as opposed to now they give me the opportunity to have to choose what I would like to do and to choose what my passion and what my purpose is. And so I think that is like probably one of the biggest wins that I've had just overall when really kind of taking a step back. But then kind of talking to some of the specifics, I mean, I've always had a passion again for sports, and I've always wanted to work, at the highest level with like NBA players or MLB players or, NFL players. And, within like the first year of me being out of college, I had that opportunity, and I had the ability to work with NFL athletes. And not only, did I have the ability to work with athletes, one-on-one in a personal setting, but like the team, like the NBA team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, asked me to come in and teach like a movement and mobility workshop with them, right, last year. And again, like that's so crazy to think about. Like, I often like throw my head into books, and I've sacrificed so much as like a young kid in high school, where I really started like my journey of like learning about the human body and human movement. And I sacrificed there, and I sacrificed in college, and then again, like I sacrificed by just leaving California and coming out to Texas. I literally knew one person in Austin, Texas when I moved out here, but I just felt like it was my time, and it was my purpose to be out here. And so the fact that led to, again, me being able to work with athletes, which was my passion, but then at the highest level, being able to teach doctors and being able to teach therapists and like people who I would consider to be a lot more smarter and a lot more seasoned than I was. They're sitting down listening to me. And again, like that just blows my mind when I sometimes just think about that. I've been that lucky to do that. And I actually have value to provide for communities. But then, yeah, I think you mentioned some really cool ones are working with like the junior NBA, right? So myself and Natalie, we're the co-owners of the Durable Athlete. We get to work with the junior NBA, which is basically like a community of youth and adolescent athletes, right? From not only the U.S., but, international as well. And they're so cool. They've basically given us the keys to create, an at-home program. And of course, within that program, it isn't just fitness, right? If we have the platform, we got to be able to give these kids everything we can give them. So we're giving them breathing and meditation practices at the end of each workout. We're giving them the joint by joint mobility in the beginning to have that calm kind of like a communication, right? That initial communication with your body before you start an intense workout, right? We're trying to give them or show them different alternatives of what health and what wellness and what fitness can ultimately look like, which is so cool. Again, when a company, an organization like the NBA is able to see that we have some type of value to provide. And then, yeah, just like, I mentioned it a couple times already, but myself and Natalie, my significant other, we own the Durable Athlete. And really the Durable Athlete is built upon 4 different pillars. So movement, nutrition, sleep, and breath. And really what we're aiming to do is just provide coaching awareness, right? Provide coaching and awareness around basically how our daily lifestyle and our daily habits around those 4 pillars could either optimize our health and wellness, or they can easily deteriorate our health and wellness and basically how we feel and how we show up on a day-to-day. So yeah, those are basically just some of the wins. And actually, recently, it's kind of right there. You can see it in the background. Mirror through Lululemon, right? So I'm a Lululemon ambassador out here in Austin, Texas. The Mirror just did a deal, I believe, with Lululemon. And so Lululemon had the opportunity to put like 5 or 6 different ambassadors that they chose to host like workouts on the Mirror app. And luckily, I was able to be one of those people. So again, just like so many different blessings from so many different areas, but I think it's really coming from a place of myself and Natalie really trying to provide a different perspective and a different context around what health and wellness and fitness really can look like.
Amazing. I loved what you said about when you started realizing that you were helping these doctors and all these people that you thought were smarter than you and everything like that. And I think for somebody like me, who I'm kind of at the beginning stages of following my calling, I've left my traditional model of engineering, jumped into the fitness world, but haven't fully followed exactly what I want to be doing yet. And a lot of the time, somebody in my position can feel fear or feel like stopped because they don't believe in their own power, because all these people are so-called ahead of you in life or further along in their journey, and you think that has something to do with you. But when you start realizing that literally everybody can learn from everybody and that nobody is ahead of anybody in life, I think that's when all of us can really like step into our own power and start taking the action steps. Because when you don't take action, then nothing happens. You have to take action, and a lot of the time that fear is what's stopping that. So I really liked what you said about that.
Yeah. So speaking of action, so let's take it back. Let's take it back. A lot of people listening are hearing these amazing accomplishments that you've done. You have, Natalie, and like, you deserve it. Like, congratulations. Like, I'm giving you all the pats on the back right now digitally. You deserve it. This is one of the hardest workers I know. He's always studying, not only in books, but in relationships. Not only the intelligent, like the emotional intelligence is huge for Cristian, not just the book intelligence, but he works with both and finds the balance. How did you get from point A to B? Because for new heroes just on the path, they might see these huge, I can't do this. Yes, you can. And Cristian is going to tell us how. So what was your origin? And then how did you say yes? And where did you get the courage to say yes?
Yeah. Again, I think that from a courage standpoint, I think that ever since I was a kid, again, just like growing up around my family, growing up in that dynamic, right? Understanding what our past was and kind of seeing this evolution that, like, really, I feel like my parents, for both of their sets of families, were like the trendsetters. They were like the trailblazers. They were the people that were like, you know what? No, like, we're going to eat a little bit healthier. Like, you know what? No, we're going to make our kids go to bed early. Like, no, we're not going to let our kids stay out on Sunday nights, right? Like, we're going to make sure that education is a priority. And not saying that any other my family members didn't make those, any priorities, but it was the stance that they took was different than the rest of my aunts and uncles and cousins and the rest of, really what my family was accustomed to. So I feel like, really from a young age, when you're around that, right? And obviously as a young kid, a lot of those things that I just talked about can be looked at as negatives, right? Like, why aren't you going to let me eat McDonald's, Mom? Like, what do you mean I got to go to bed at 8:00? Like, what the heck? Like, you don't realize it, right? But I think that just being in that environment, I felt that shift, and I was conscious to the fact of, like, okay, like, me and my sister, we're kind of like a little bit different than like our cousins, not in a demeaning way, but just in the sense that, like, our environment is different, right? Like, where our parents are trying to push us and trying to be is like very different. And so honestly, I think the courage really just came from like seeing my parents do it, right? Like, knowing where they come from, knowing where my grandparents have come from, and then knowing where they were trying to push us. It was like, okay, like, yeah, if they're able to do that, if they're able to come from, from nothing basically, right? If my mom is able to, if she dropped out of middle school and, really just didn't go back to school until she was like, 17 years old, and then ended up basically going and getting her master's, like, then I can do anything, right? Like, there's no excuses. Like, she was a single mom. She can do that. Like, I can do anything in the world. So I think a big part really does come from my family, but really where I think a lot of this, like the whole journey, right? Because I think that's what you asked, right, D? Like where did this kind of originate from?
Yeah.
Again, like, as a young kid, I was always into sports. And so for me, like, it was just every single day that would, like, basketball was my love and my passion. And so if I wasn't going to school and if I wasn't studying, right, I was like on a basketball court somewhere or with the basketball somewhere, just like perfecting my craft. Because in my head, nobody could tell me any different than, like, I was going to make it to the NBA. And of course, I'm like 5'5", 5'6", right? Like, obviously he's short, Hispanic, really overweight as like a young kid. I say really overweight. I was probably about 15 to 20 pounds overweight. And again, like, in my head though, like, I had, two skill coaches, and, I did all these extra practices and all these things by myself. And again, like, all of that was just consistently just really like trying to tell myself that, like, it doesn't matter what your goal is. Like, if you work hard, like, you can achieve anything you want. And it was at the age of 12 that I actually injured myself, my first injury playing basketball. And so I went to a physical therapy office, and I remember sitting on the desk and I was getting treatment. And I remember looking around at the environment and everybody that was in there. And I loved the energy. Everyone was so positive. There was hip hop music being played, which of course, like I love hip hop. And then like there's basketballs and there's footballs and there's baseballs, there's athletes all around. And I'm like, oh man, this is cool. Like if for some reason I don't make it to the NBA, like I want to work in this environment here. And of course, like I didn't know what a physical therapist was. I just knew that this person was going to help me feel better at the time, you know? And it was funny, again, my mom, being the type of person she is, right after that first session, I had opened up to her how much I enjoyed being in there. She signed me up to basically be an intern at the age of 12 at that physical therapy office. So from the age of 12, literally until about 17 when I left high school, right? I was an intern at a physical therapy office at the same one, and I was able to learn under some amazing therapists. Of course, like, you know, I probably couldn't tell you all the intricacies of human movement. I didn't understand it to a T even when I left in high school, but it was just surrounding myself with that environment of constantly trying to learn and just being around an environment where like people are helping other people like feel better, right? And it wasn't just necessarily from a physical standpoint, right? That was like more, you know, at first glance. But then as I spent more time there, you start to realize that like, oh no, this, you know, this therapist really was just kind of giving an inspirational talk to their client, right, for like the last 10 minutes, and like that's what he needed to give her today. So then it kind of started to get like the gears running around, like maybe there's more to like this whole performance thing rather than just like physically, right, like physically performing at a high level. And then in college, I really just, you know, filtered right into the same thing. I started interning with a physical therapist out in Los Angeles where I went to school. And it was my junior year where I came across like probably one of the most influential mentors and physical therapists I was ever around. And it was funny because I was only around him for maybe like 2 months, which was like the shortest span I ever spent with the physical therapist. But he was basically helping people with nutrition, with breathing, with, you know, with their mindset. Like he was just helping them really with everything but movement. Matter of fact, like he would put people, this is the first time I ever saw this, he would put people on a table and then like kind of take their heels and then like kind of start to like play around with their body, kind of like traction it out a little bit. And he would be able to tell me and tell them really like, okay, so you're coming in with some shoulder pain, but I can really feel that it's coming from like your left QL. And so like, I'm sure some of us have probably seen that before, right? People are like, oh, your ankle's hurting. It's probably your something. And it's like, wait, how? Like, how is that connected? And like, my mind still like fascia was not a thing. Like I didn't understand that yet, right? So I was thinking to myself, I remember being in college, right? Just thinking to myself, leaving, like, how the hell could he tell that this is causing this, but like they're not even connected in the same side of the body? So more and more conversations with him. His name was Dan Kinney, and he just continued to, you know, to explain to me basically that one, like, we can't help somebody from a fitness and health perspective without taking a holistic approach. Like that's just like point blank period. And like to me that was like boom, like, oh shit, like I've been doing things wrong my whole life then, because like I just thought it was all about like getting better, you know, getting better with, you know, ankle mobility. Like damn, okay, I guess I gotta have to start learning a little bit about nutrition, and I guess I kind of have to start learning about like what is stress and like how can we mitigate like, you know, mental and physical stress. And so, yeah, then kind of fast forward a little bit, right? So senior year, I'm getting ready to basically go off to grad school, and I didn't get into any physical therapy schools at the time. And I got into University of Texas at Austin, so basically like the Longhorns, UT, and East Tennessee State, which is a school out in Johnsonville City, Tennessee. And both of them were for exercise physiology. And so at that time, I was like, you know what? Okay, maybe I'm not a physical therapist, or I won't become one. But I think what I could do is I can learn, just continue to learn a little bit more about the human body, right? Let me learn a little bit more about what are the small intricacies that really can give you the percentages differences, right, to become a high level or elite level performer. And then so I ended up taking, you know, the UT grad school experience. But then as I moved out here to Austin is when John Wolf, who was the chief of fitness at On It, right, who was from my hometown in California, was like, oh man, if you want, why don't you just come be a part-time, employee here? I can't promise you anything, but just become a part-time employee, and you're going to school. You could do them both at the same time. And so I think I did that for like a month. And then some amazing opportunities came up to basically where it was, okay, I have these experiences where I'll get to travel, I'll get to learn my hands-on experience, basically, right? Or I can kind of stick to the more formal route and keep going through school. I know there's going to be tons of benefit. I am an academia at heart, so I know I'm going to love to learn, but like where is my heart feeling that I should go right now? And really, I felt like it was with the experiences. And even though my parents, had told me, your whole life we had worked to try and get to this point. Like, I thought we wanted to go to grad school. And I think, for my mom, I think just from from like an accolade standpoint, I think she was kind of getting caught up in like me really wanting to like get that degree so that we can say, look, mijo, like you got your master's degree, like look where we've come from, basically. But I was like, you know what? No, like there's still so much value without having to get that paper. Like, I'm going to make a difference regardless. Like, I'm going to trust myself on this one and not take the easier route for me in that case. So yeah, I ended up jumping, and I ended up becoming a full-time salary employee on it, like within 3 months after dropping out of college. And then again, like you had said, Derek, started to work with just, high-level athletes, teaching classes, teaching durability classes. Like I was, the one who, with Shane Hines, was able to start the durability class offering at On It. And then in terms of like the education team and teaching certifications, again, education has always been a big part for me. So Shane and John were super cool in allowing me in becoming like the second and the third at certifications, which then eventually kind of grew into like, right before I left, I was, the lead on the durability certification with, myself and Shane co-teaching that. And so, yeah, man, it's been a fun journey. And again, obviously it's very much had an influence from fitness and from movement and physical therapy and wanting to help people basically reach, a higher level of functioning. And yeah, the cool part is like it's still continuing to evolve to this day.
Absolutely.
Real quick, can you explain a little bit about what the durability, like what that program is?
Yeah, totally. So the On It durability is really kind of set up. It's like the foundation of how they view movement. It's kind of like the context of how they would view and grade movement, right? So, speaking in very layman's and very general terms, right? It's how can we account for not just movement quantity, right? So not just, telling people to do endless amounts of reps until you can't breathe, but let's take into account maybe like the joint structure, right? As we are moving. So when we're moving, are we putting our joints in a biomechanically safe position, right? Like, are we being biomechanically efficient with our joints and with our tissues when we're moving through squats, when we're moving through lunges? So that's kind of like one piece, right? And then the next piece, like the unique offering that they kind of supplement that with, is now their perspective upon like, recovery techniques with joint by joint mobility and with like full body integrated movements that are very much aimed to, again, put your body in maybe like an end range of motion, or to put your body and put your joints in like extreme ranges of motion, right? So that your body can then start to kind of develop this base of having some movement variability, of having a wide variety or a vast variety of a movement base. So for example, right, like if I can only do a squat one way, right, and let's say I'm performing, like in the gym, let's say there's a friendly competition in the gym, and I squat, but I'm not able to squat down in that one range or that one particular pattern that my body is very accustomed to, and I end up squatting in a very different way. Chances are I'm going to have some type of injury or setback, right? Usually injuries happen in ranges that we don't necessarily train or we don't have any experience in. So it's really just trying to also, expose our body to different ranges of motion, right? Again, whether it be with just one single joint or whether it be with our full body, and then allowing our nervous system to really download and understand, okay, this position is uncomfortable, this position is very stiff or very tight on me, and basically can we allow our breath to allow our body to really just kind of fall into this place of understanding, of having like more wiggle room, right? It gives your body a little bit more wiggle room, not necessarily saying that it prevents injury, right? But really just kind of helping like mitigate any type of setbacks, right? And if a setback does occur, that it isn't for a chronic period, it isn't for like a year or 2 years that you're out for, but rather you're more of like, a short term kind of setback.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about we talked about injuries and various challenges and resistance will come up on our hero's journey. So you mentioned when you were 12, you had an injury, and I know you've had other injuries in the past. But let's talk about some of the resistance and challenges that you've had to face and overcome on your path.
Yeah. So I remember. So again, this academia, right? Like education has always been a very high. It's been placed very high on the totem pole. I think for myself, but it's really kind of stemming from like my parents. And I think it's because, again, that has been looked at as like the key that's going to get you, to wherever you want to go. Right. And I remember I was an 8th grader. Yeah. So I probably was about 14 or 15 years old. And my parents had signed me up for a prep school, like one of the most like well-recognized prep schools, not only in California, but I believe like the whole world at the time, the whole US at the time. And it was about like an hour and a half away from my hometown. So it was obviously a bus ride. And that was something that like I was completely new to. But again, like the school was like a college prep, like on steroids. Like it was, the education, the curriculum was no joke. And I remember it was my first year there. And I remember I was like a month in. And again, like, growing up, I don't talk about this too often, but like looking back on it, it was definitely evident. A lot of racism. Like, I went to schools where, the predominant race that would be there, right, at this prep school was mainly Caucasian, right? And I don't know, to this day, if I was able to sit face to face with some of those people, I don't know if they would necessarily say that they were, trying to be racist or trying to be demeaning. But a lot of comments were kind of phased around like, okay, well, 99% of the people here are Caucasian and there's one Mexican kid and there's one black kid. If there's a comment that comes out about calling someone a beaner, right, or using another kind of mean word, in order to reference, a certain race, like if everybody doesn't look at it, right? If the majority of people don't look at that, it's like, oh, we're not trying to be mean. We're just kind of trying to crack a joke. That might not be the case for everybody there. And so that was like one thing that I realized right away is when I went to that prep school, there was like a lot of like this racism that was involved. And I never really let it get to me because there were a lot of comments and I was friends with those people, but there were a lot of comments that were made that, again, looking back on it, I was like, damn, I think they might have they were probably trying to be dicks to me. And I probably was just like in my own zone and thinking like, oh no, he's my homie. It's all good. Like it's a joke. But that was like one thing. And I'm glad that I never really let it get to me, or I never thought about it too much really until like last couple of years, myself and Natalie would talk about that. But then two, I remember the school was so hard that I remember going into the restroom after, like, again, this was like about 2 or 3 months into my first year. And I remember calling my mom during school and I remember crying to her and I was like, yo, honestly, like, I think we made a mistake. Like this school is way too hard for me. Like there's no way I can complete all these projects. Like everyone here is so smart. Like, I don't think I can do this. And I remember like to this day, like my mom telling me basically like, yo, like, again, like, remember where we came from? Like, if you think that this is hard, like, you think, like, reading a book and doing a book report is hard, like, and then, try, like, coming up from basically, like, again, giving her perspective of how she came up and where like, what my upbringing was like when I was younger. It just continued to put things into perspective. And I was like, shit, she's right. Okay, I can do this shit. So that was, like, one thing. Again, like, I remember kind of having this idea for a little while, like, damn, maybe I'm not smart. Like maybe I'm just not smart enough, compared to some of these other kids. But then I would say some other pushback is, honestly, like I think you guys can already tell by now, like family is such a big piece to me. And a lot of my family members, again, from both my mom and my dad's side, have stayed in California, in the same city that we were born and raised. And I wouldn't say that it was like viewed as like a negative thing, but yeah, like if you left, like, if you left our city, it was kind of looked at it like a little differently. Like maybe you didn't like us. Like maybe my family used to kind of think like maybe he doesn't like us as much, or maybe he wants to get away from us. Maybe he's like embarrassed of us or of some sort. And so I kind of felt bad really going off to college and really just leaving and still being in Austin, Texas to this day. Like one of the things that I deal with is like, I love my family. And if it was up to me, I would be living, in that same city, or my family, being very close by. But I remember one of the big pushbacks was really just being able to leave the nest, right? Like not feeling as if like I am abandoning anybody, but if anything, like leaving in order to really try to feed my bucket so that I can continue to feed other people's buckets. But that ultimately, like, I always kind of look at it as like a basketball analogy, right? Like a jersey analogy. Like I got my jersey on and like in the back, it isn't my name. Like it's my last name and it's my family's name. Right. And so like everything that I'm doing isn't just for me. Like I wish that they could look at it and be like, no, I'm doing this for like us. Like so that everybody can say like, look what we did, look what our family was able to push through and was able to do. Cause I really do feel like everything that I've accomplished isn't just me. Like it's everything that my family has allowed me to actually go and pursue. You know what I mean? So yeah, that would probably be, honestly, man, like maybe I feel like I'm a little too grateful most days. So like, I don't really look at shit as like negative or like setbacks. Like I can't really, there's probably been things that have probably been like a little bit of a hardship. Right. But like, there's not too many things anymore that could really throw me off. You know what I mean? And if anything, like the biggest resistance I have, honestly, is just family, is being around, not being able to be like physically around my family. And honestly, I think, think above, think, whoever we want to say is, because if that is like the biggest resistance I had, then like, man, I got so much to be grateful for. Like there's so many more people that are going through other stuff. So yeah, that would definitely be like my biggest resistance, I would say, so far.
I love that. And you keep referencing earlier you did, and just now also about filling your cup, right? And I think I deal with the same thing. I'm away from my family and I have little siblings, which kind of tears out my heart a little bit because I'm missing them growing up. But there's this analogy of, if we're not living in alignment with who we know ourselves to be and providing the value to other people in the world that we know we can provide, then our spiritual cup isn't going to be full, and then everybody around you is going to be getting only part of you. You know what I mean? And I think by doing what you're doing and living in alignment and doing all the amazing stuff that you're doing, your cup is overflowing. And even if you're not with your family physically, they can feel how much more fulfilled you are. And that's what I feel like a lot of people need to realize is, if you're not doing everything that you can to make sure you are there for yourself in every single way, then you can't be there for other people, even if you're physically apart from them. And sometimes that's just the kind of give and take that you gotta become present with. But I think it's so much more important to live for who you know yourself to be, and then whenever you can be, and living in this life where you have kind of your own company where you can go visit your family and everything like that is how it all kind of ties together in the end. So
yeah, I love that. Thank you.
This is beautiful. You guys have both got me tearing up over here. Okay. We talked a bit about your mentors and helpers along the path, family being a big one, that guy with the leg pull. What's his name?
Dan Kinney.
Dan Kinney. So we have Dan Kinney, we have your family. So just to talk, like it's very important to for a hero to have helpers and mentors on the way. So maybe talk a bit about some other of your helpers and mentors along the path, and then how do you, Cristian, be a good helper and mentor to others to pay it forward?
So, I think, in terms of mentors, like obviously mom and dad, right? Like mom, dad, grandparents, like always going to be at the top of my list. And then, in terms of just like trying to help me navigate like my career and my journey, like away from the nest, Dan Kinney, again, that physical therapist I talked about has done wonders, at least for my professional life. The person who put me in contact with Dan Kinney was another student at the school that I was going to. And he is I actually got to put you in contact with him, Derek and Ty. His name is Ryan Glatt. And I went to school with him out in Cal Lutheran in LA, and he basically works within, like, he's all cognitive now. He's basically everything with like the brain and how brain, can feed into performance, how the brain is affected by stress, how the brain is basically affected or able to basically manipulate so many different things. My age, but just like on a whole nother level. And like, honestly, anytime I have questions, even though he's still the brain guy, if I have questions about fascia, he was the first person to introduce me to the idea of like what was fascia and like who Thomas Myers is. He's still somebody that I call to this day. So he's amazing.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that, in terms of like, me leaving California, coming out to Texas, obviously, John Wolf was the person who gave me that first opportunity to work at On It. So I definitely have to thank him for that. Shane Hines, who's the director of education, right, at On It, and then who's, obviously the head of, teaching the certifications. Like, I mean, man, I'm sure, Derek, you probably in the same boat as me. Like,
Yeah.
so many conversations with Shane that have really just like, provided a different perspective and given me inspiration, like have really, again, just like filled my cup up and reassured like I am doing. And just kind of continue to push me along that line of like, yep, you're on the right path. Keep going that way. Keep going that way. So Shane is definitely one of those individuals as well. And then, honestly, there's a gentleman by the name of Ben Kenyon who really put me in contact with people at Lululemon, which allowed me to facilitate that whole ambassadorship, which has given me so many more opportunities. And then really like another big mentor for me is really Natalie, my significant other. Like, I'll be honest, I'm 27, she's 31. No, she's 30. She's 30. She's going to be 31 in like 20 days or 18 days or something like that. She's a little bit older than me. Obviously, she has a little bit more experience than me, but with relationships, I had a hard time, let's make it very general. I had a hard time meeting people in the middle, and, I think it was very easy for me to put all my effort and work into my professional life, but putting that same energy and that same care into my relationship with my significant other was something that I had a hard time in trying to find balance with. And so she has really helped me kind of find that area of, not necessarily telling me what I need to be like and what I need to do, but just giving me the tools to be successful. And like, those type of mentors are awesome, right? Not the ones that are going to give you all the answers, and not the ones that are going to tell you how to specifically find the answers to something, but the ones that are going to kind of help just like keep the safeguards on and kind of just help you navigate, as you continue to go within your journey. So I have to thank Natalie for that. And, I'm probably leaving out some more mentors here, but I would say like those are like the big ones that really come to mind. And in terms of how can I continue to really be a mentor and serve others going forward, I think, I just mentioned his name was Ben Kenyon. He's the assistant strength coach for the Trailblazers. We just did a little interview the other day on Instagram Live, and he basically spoke to, experiences, right, in life is like what it's all about. And ultimately, if we can help shed light in our experiences, what we've learned from our experiences, and we can share that with others, like that is the greatest form of mentorship, right? Like that is the greatest form of like this is what this
Cristian,
You're frozen a little bit.
we think you're frozen there. As he figures that out, what are your thoughts so far, Taha?
Honestly, this has been amazing. I've learned so much, and I just can see so many people's journeys in him and relate to him so much. And I am just really excited to continue learning from amazing people like this who have left the traditional model. And at first I wasn't really sure what his journey was going to be like, because he seemed like he was following kind of his passion the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
But his threshold point, I think, was when he decided not to go on the traditional model, to go back to more school and just kind of jump into the experiences. And I can actually really relate to that because I never went to school for what I am doing now. I've done these kind of programs, but they're not any I'm not going to get a written. I have my NASM certification now for personal training, but that's the only test I've done for all of the movement and everything that I've learned and stuff about alignment. And I can tell you straight up, like, I used to coach people in the corrective exercise program who were physical therapists, who were chiropractors, who were personal trainers, all of this, and none of them knew what I knew because I went through it myself with my own body, learning about alignment, learning about how to strengthen my body to correct imbalances and everything. And it's just, you cannot learn from a book what you can learn from doing. You know what I mean? And I think that's what Cristian learned. And obviously it's scary to go against what so many people believe is what you have to do to be successful. But I really think that we're at this kind of end of a paradigm where traditional education is kind of, people are learning that exactly what we're talking about, right? Like, you can learn so much more by doing and following those people that you actually like admire and are doing the things that you want to be doing, compared to going to school and learning from a book and not following like, we're also taught to like figure out what we want to do when we're 18, and it's like, we don't even know what we want to do when we're 18 necessarily. And he's back. Perfect.
Welcome back. It was perfect timing, and it segued into, we were talking about helpers, mentors, how you're giving back. One thing, the next question we're going to lead up, and you mentioned it earlier, so we're just going to get back into kind of your self-care routines right now, because I think that's so important to be your best self, is to attend to your optimal well-being, mind, body, emotional, spiritual. So you talked about how important your morning routine is. Let's guide us through that. How do you set yourself up for a hero day?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think in order for us to really, or in order for myself to really try to have the best morning routine I can, it really starts with getting a great night's sleep, right? So it's really kind of the preparation that happens in the evening time that sets me up for the morning. What I would say, though, in terms of just my morning routine and what that looks like. So the first thing I do is I get on up, right? My alarm clock goes off. I get on up, and right away, I'm already kind of thinking through my head. One, like, what am I extremely happy for? Like, what is one thing that I can undoubtedly say that I am extremely grateful for? And then two, like, what is the vibe that, and it's funny, this is like the terms I use in my head, like, what's the vibe that I want to put out today? Like, everyone that I come across, like, what is the vibe that I want them to feel from me, right? And again, like, obviously when we go throughout our day, that changes and, things will knock us off. But I'm a big proponent, if I can start my morning off like that it's just really going to help me set the trend and remind myself when I'm going through a troubled time during that day of what I told myself in the morning. And then right away after that, I go straight to water. So I'm drinking about at least 30 to 45 ounces of water within like the first 5 minutes of me waking up. And again, obviously just being asleep, right? We're a little dehydrated at nighttime. So just trying to again, feed my body, feed my physical body as much as I can and as quick as I can. And then right after that, I'll go straight down to the ground and start doing some like foam rolling, or maybe just some work with like the so right. I'm a big proponent of basically just doing breath work with like some type of SMR, so some type of self myofascial release. And then after that, I usually so that'll probably be about 5 to 10 minutes. And then the movement aspect right after that, again, like my daily check-in with like my movement practice, I usually take about anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes of going through just a variety of different things. Some days it might just be a standing mobility series where I'll check in with each individual joint. Some days it really just might be a focus upon my spine. So if I had a hard training day the day before, lower back is maybe a little stiff, or maybe my erectors are feeling a little stiff, then I'll just spend some extra time, rolling, crawling on the ground to help loosen that up. And then once I finish that, it really just kind of goes straight into what I have for the rest of my day. I try to, my routine has kind of shifted a little bit ever since the social distancing. but I try to get at least about 5 to 15 minutes of reading in every single morning, right? And that reading might be just come from a book, or also I'm subscribed to a subscription online for basically for like strength and conditioning, or I'm also in a speed insiders course, which is basically just like everything from like speed, agility, change of direction, like, building your vertical jump, like a lot of performance-based stuff. And so that is a 6-month course online, and there's like video tutorials. And so if it's not one of those 3 things, again, just trying to like feed my mind with some type of information. Because again, I feed off of the education, honestly, and like just making sure that I'm not getting stagnant and that the information I'm pulling in isn't stale, and that I'm staying up to date as much as I can. And then really after that, man, it's just really whatever the rest of my day kind of calls for. Sometimes that might just be going to see, a client and have a session. Some days that might be just, hey, me and Natalie need to shoot a video for, like the junior NBA. So let's do that right away. Yeah, man, I would say like the first hour to hour 15 are like our time. And then after that, like we're usually like straight into our work, you know what I mean, for that day.
Mm-hmm. And so you said it all starts with the good night's sleep. So what does your nighttime wind down routine look like? That's something I think a lot of people, the morning routine's all the rage and people talk about that, but it's like you said, it's also how we end our day. Sets us up for a good one, the next.
Totally. So, evening time, I think one of the biggest things is really just trying to put away all my work after like a certain time, right? So about 6 o'clock to 6:30, because I know that, I'm getting up religiously like every day, at least, if not before 7, at 7, right? And I'm starting my work for the day really like no later than like 8:30. So if I'm able to go from 8:30 to 5:30 or 8:30 to 6 o'clock, and I'm, my head is down and I'm working hard, I need to be able to give myself that time off at a certain point. I got to give myself like that time off, right? Like I have to give myself that relaxation and that recovery time. So again, I try to cut off all emails, all calls, sometimes I'll send a little text here and there, maybe around like 6 or 6:30. But then after that, like I try to be as disconnected from that as possible. And then really after that, getting on my blue blocking glasses, right? So myself and Natalie, we really like to watch Netflix, or, we have a little show that we like to kind of end our evening with. And so with that, obviously we don't really want to expose our body, right, to high levels of blue light or all the artificial lights that are out there. So we try to put on our blue blockers right away at usually like around 6 o'clock to 6:30 if we're going to bed like at 8:30 or 9. And yeah, that is a big piece there. And then honestly, like, while we're on the couch, like I know Natalie does this as well, but I'm very conscious of like how I'm breathing, right? I try to really shift all my breathing, one, to my nose, but then anytime like my mind is still kind of racing, I really just focus on trying to slow my exhales. And I can usually feel like my thoughts and my mind kind of slow down after that. So, and then obviously a big piece is just trying not to eat too late. Right. So anytime like, again, 6:30 is usually our cutoff for a lot of factors. I'm going to try not to eat at that time as well. So that's kind of like what my evening routine would look like.
What are the blue blocker glasses that you use? Do you have a specific brand?
Ooh, that's a great point. I do not know the exact name. I know I got them off of Amazon, and they were like one of the first ones that popped up when you type in blue blocker glasses. I know that they're basically, put it this way, they are a brand that makes like lenses, like stylish lenses.
Okay.
I think they're like predominantly like female,
Okay.
But obviously like the blue blockers they came out with are like unisex.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it, it's like a 4-letter brand.
Are those the clear ones, like the clear frames? Yeah, I've seen those too.
I'll put them in our show notes.
I loved what you said about the breathing, because I'm a huge like nighttime morning routine person, and I've tried so much to like figure out why I toss and turn at night and like don't sleep well for a long time, and I have not thought about focusing on my breathing. And when I literally, as you were talking about that, I started like doing what you're saying and slowing my exhales down, and I was like, wait, this is really working. So definitely gonna try that one out.
Hell yeah.
As we wind down this call, Taiha has a couple questions she ends with, and I have a couple questions I end with. But since we're talking about breath, I'd love it if you could just guide us through just a couple breaths, just to get us like in a really like awesome headspace for us to answer these questions and to really get you in a great space so that we hear your heart just speak these. Like, these are 4 very important questions to us both. So yeah, we'd love to hear you guide us through just something, a little some Christian magic.
Cool. Yeah, let's go back and forth here a little bit, right? Let's do a little bit of we'll throw in some breath holds. We'll use our mouth to breathe in the beginning, a little bit more up regulating, and then we'll kind of like phase into a little bit more down regulation towards the end, okay? So this first part right here, right? Let's use our mouth to inhale and let's use our nose to exhale. Cool there. And then what we're going to do here, we're going to go through a 3-second inhale. We'll hold for 3 seconds, and then we'll exhale for 3 seconds. So 3, 3, and 3. Sound good right there? Mm-hmm. Cool. So let's try it out together, okay? We're going to use our mouth to inhale in 3, 2, 1, and inhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. Nose exhale. 1, 2, 3. And then again, inhale with the mouth. 1, 2, 3. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. Nose exhale. 1, 2, 3. Again, through our mouth, inhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. And exhale. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Big inhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold, hold, hold for 1. Hold for 2. Hold for 3. And exhale. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Now what we're going to do is we're going to shift. Let's try this out. We'll close them out. Only nose now. We'll go 2-second inhale, 2-second hold, and we'll try to get to a 5-second exhale and then a 2-second hold. So 2, 2, 5, 2. Sound good? Let's do that.
All through the nose? All
through the nose. Yep. Yep. We'll do that about 3 times, okay? Yeah. We'll start together in 3, 2, 1, and inhale. 1, 2. Hold your breath. Slow exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath. Inhale. 1, 2. Hold your breath. Exhale. 1. Slow, 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 slow. Hold your breath. Inhale. 1, 2. Hold your breath. Slowest exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. Awesome, guys.
That was so great.
Yeah, I feel unreal. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, anytime.
Okay. Wow. So in closing, we have a few more questions for you. Okay. For me, I've just kind of taken my leap to really follow what my passion truly is. And while you were gone, actually, I was kind of talking about how you kind of followed your passion your whole life, but I kind of took away that your threshold was when you decided to not go to school and to jump into the experiences. And so for somebody like me or other people, other heroes who are hearing their calling and are ready to take the leap, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
Yeah, I think, one thing that is maybe going to be consistent, regardless of what your passion is or what, that leap or what that jump might look like, is really like Alan Stein, that was a mentor I forgot about, Alan Stein. He talks about, just attitude and effort, right? So, what is your attitude, right? When you're going into your new endeavor, right? Is it that, is it a quick fix, right? Is it just like, oh, I think I want to, be a nutrition coach, and then day one, you get hit with all this information that maybe you have to learn or you have to become accustomed to. and then it's just kind of like, never mind, this is like a little too much, right? Like our attitude has to be in place. That is ultimately like the foundation for everything that we do. So if we're hungry and we're willing to put in the hard work for it, right? I think that is like very important. That just knowing and understanding that like there's going to be times of hardship, there's going to be times that we're going to have to put our head down and sacrifice. But if that is what our calling is, and that's what we're really sold upon, then like that is okay, because that is part, right? That is part of the journey. And then, I said attitude, and then just, I guess, like kind of fits into is just effort, right? Like being willing and being okay with the fact that, like, again, we're going to have to sacrifice. Like, nothing great comes easily, right? I think there's like so many different analogies that people use to kind of like get that point across. And I think that, again, regardless of what we're trying to accomplish, that if the foundation is set, and we are willing to put in the work, and we are okay with being in uncomfortable situations, then ultimately we know that those uncomfortable situations are going to help us become a better version of ourselves, or they're going to help us to continue to propel us, further along on our journey. I think that would be, key, is just reminding that there's going to be great times, and then there's going to feel like there's not going to be so great times, but it's ultimately all part of the process.
Totally. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And my last question is, in 3 words, how would you describe the experience that you are having on this earth?
Fucking crazy, dude.
3 words. I love
that. That's how I literally think that all the time. I'm like, life is so insane. It doesn't make sense. Cool.
Okay, so I have a couple questions for you now. Okay, so if you keep on the path and just keep on step moving forward, what you are doing constantly, what kind of legacy would you have left? So what would your 85-year-old self, what would he look like? What is the legacy of you left at 85? Where are you?
I think, I think the crazy part is, like, it could take, like, my end goal or my end, my end destination, or whatever we want to call it, and everyone I was able to touch and how I was able to influence people. I think that could just be looked upon in so many different ways. Like, I think, the opportunities are endless. Like what Natalie, what the durable athlete is going to be able to accomplish, I feel like it's something that we can't even like fathom right now, right? I think we have an idea of what we want to do, but I have this strong feeling that like we're not ready for whatever the heck is going to come our way, and that's okay. But what I would see as like being the 85-year-old self, and what I would be able to leave is, I think being able to help people understand or better understand the relationship that they have with their body, and the relationship that they view and have with fitness, right? Again, I think that fitness is just, it's very one-dimensional in the society that we live in. I think we look at fitness through like the same set of goggles that we've been looking through it, our whole life, right? And even just people before us, right? They've just taken stuff that have just been handed down, like you said, Ty, from people that are older than us, right? Or people that are more seasoned than us, like the experts that have been doing it for years. Like, again, like, not saying that the experts in whatever field are not putting out or not doing it justice and not putting out the greatest information, but they're ultimately only providing their context and their perspective. And like each one of us has our own set of experiences and context and perspective that we can bring to the table looking at the same situation. And so I think, again, it's just one, allowing people to better understand their body, have a better relationship, but then also two, understand how fitness and health are really one and the same. Like fitness isn't just working out, and health isn't just eating healthy, right? That like ultimately everything is involved, and our mindset, is involved in how, our physical body feels, and how our physical body feels is tied in with maybe what's going on within, like, between our ears and in our head. So yeah, I guess that would kind of be the legacy that I would like to at least leave for people going forward. Mm-hmm. Is that deeper understanding and that connection.
Right on. And what would this 85-year-old man, this 85-year-old Cristian, what advice would he give you right now?
To be patient, to trust your process, right? Trust timing. And honestly, like, just to to never forget like what has gotten me like, to this point, at least where I'm at in my career right now, right? Like everything that has allowed me to get to where I'm at, the mindset that I've had, the community that I've surrounded myself with. Don't forget that recipe, because as we continue to grow, I think it is easy to kind of just forget about everything that has happened in your past, or forget about things or mentors or people or places that have helped you gain this perspective that have allowed you to continue to grow. So I think it's just trying to hold on to that specific mindset and that ability.
Beautiful. So we close each episode. We release them every week. And I think there's a really powerful thing about challenges. They help build in some accountability. So what we'd like to do is we'd like you to issue a 7-day challenge for our listeners, something they could do or bring awareness to over the next 7 days, based on what we talked about today, whatever calls to your heart.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. I would say, I think it's really, I'm going to center this one around sleep. Excuse me. Just because I feel like sleep is so powerful and can be so empowering. And it's usually something that almost everyone in this earth can maybe, be getting better quality sleep or getting more sleep or just putting more energy into that. And I think a big part of that is being able to unwind at night and being able to downregulate. So I would challenge people, really, I want to say in 2 ways. One, if you don't have blue blocking glasses, simply buy some blue blocking glasses. They're like $20. Okay. And just see if it makes a difference. Because again, we're not the type of people that are like, oh no, we got to put all technology out of our house. This has to be like a technology free zone so that, we don't have to get hit with these, all these like different sets of like wavelengths that are coming out and like influencing our brain and our body. We understand that TV and watching TV is something that people are accustomed to, but just if there's some low hanging fruit to really optimize our daily habits, right, and our lifestyle, blue blocking glasses to help, deteriorate and block out any light that could be keeping you up at night. So buying that. And then 2, after about 6:30, right? So like past your evening time. So maybe when you put away your laptop or your phone or where you kind of settle in for the night, try to close your mouth and just use your nose to breathe. So maybe for the next 7 days, as you're watching TV or these last couple hours before you go to bed, try to just really limit, right, the amount of how much you breathe through your mouth. And obviously when we do that, can't necessarily talk, right? So it kind of allows us that time to, again, maybe go and maybe make that a little bit more of an internal practice where we, again, start to downregulate our body, but then also maybe allow some space for our mind and our thoughts to kind of have some feed.
Mm-hmm. I'm up for it. Taiha, are you in?
Yeah, I'm down.
So
my glasses are actually like prescription glasses have blue blockers, so that's awesome.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
I have some blue blockers too. They're like actually called blue blockers. Like they're like the retro ones. I don't know.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
OG. Yeah. Turtle print or whatever. So where can the people find you, Cristian?
So they could definitely look me up on the Durable Athlete website, which is thedurableathlete.com. You can find me on Instagram at Cristian_the Durable Athlete. I'm on Facebook as just like Cristian Plascencia, my full name. And then even on Twitter, Coach Cristian GP. So yeah, all the different platforms. Usually though, Instagram is probably where I'm putting out the most content just in terms of, daily lifestyle tips and the Durable Athlete Instagram as well is something that you'll be able to find from my Instagram. And so, yeah, that's where you can find me right now. And, right now, today, it's the 3rd, but within like a month, the Durable Athlete Mobility and Fitness app should be coming out. So we'll be able to put all the cool stuff that we have on Instagram now with like a little bit more material to kind of help people understand each movement a little bit better. So more cueing, a little bit more organization, but then also have a place for, breathing practices, for foam rolling practices, for really everything that's going to help people just down regulate and find this balance between, being up and regulated and being able to relax and kind of recover.
Amazing. I've really appreciated you being on this call with us, and I've learned so much. It's been great learning more about your story and all of the advice that you've given us. Thank you, Derek, for getting Cristian on here and introducing us.
Let's raise our fist in the air and bring it in to the winner's circle.
Boom. Love it.
Anyone could have a seat. There's always room at this table, and it's just saying yes and taking a step forward. So thank you, Cristian. Thank you, Taiha. Loved you
Thank
both.
you guys.
Thank you guys. Have a great day, y'all.
And that's
You
that.
too.
Awesome.